Hi everyone, my name is Rebecca. Let's talk about makeup. So today I wanted to do a quick get ready with me using my Project Pan palettes. This is the Dream Street palette, Kathleen Lights and ColourPop collab, and this is my Tarte Pro To Go, my little palette. This is for the fun sized, and together these are for better together. I'm just gonna make a look. I've already got some base makeup on. I'm wearing some of the matte velvet card sample that I'm working through for my turn and burn, which I am actually really enjoying. Because it's called matte velvet, I've always kind of avoided it because I don't know. I don't object to a matte base, but I don't know. I don't object to a matte base, but I'm like having matte in the name scares me a little, I guess. Just because I really want it to be lifelike and closer to a satin matte, more skin-like, I think, than a matte matte. And matte velvet just sounded really matte, like full-on matte, but actually I'm really enjoying it. I've enjoyed it mixed with some other things. I've enjoyed it on its own. Anyway, so I'm gonna do an eye look. I'm not gonna like talk you through the look or anything like that. I'll put everything that I use in the description box if it's of interest to you, but there are some other things that I would like to talk, which is random stuff. I want to talk a little bit about some makeup news. I want to talk a little bit about annoying things influencers do. I've got some things I would like to chat about. So we're just gonna do our makeup and we're just gonna chat. So let's get to it. I was scrolling through shorts today and now I have just some of the most annoying music just playing over and over again in my head. I hate that. Gosh, some of the music in those shorts. I'm getting old. I'm getting old. Kids these days. Kids these days and what they think is music. Okay, I need an eye primer. Should I use, should I use my Cinnamon Toast? I'm still working on Cinnamon Toast for my deck of panning. I need a few more uses on that one. It's been a little bit of a struggle to get the uses that I need out of that product just because it's very warm and not every eye look I'm doing is super warm. We're gonna go for it today though. We're gonna go for it. Okay, so this is the Huda Beauty Cinnamon Toast. Matte metal, obviously it's the matte side. It's one of the minis. And I pulled this for the warm toned prompt in Deck of Panning. It is very warm toned. I've got my mirror right over here, so if you're wondering what I'm looking at, that's what it is. I actually had to rehydrate this after about 10 uses. Maybe 8 uses. Anyway, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the MAC reformulation that's happening to their Bolt lipsticks. I know there has been a lot of panic and a lot of chatter about the reformulation of their classic lipsticks. This isn't the first time that their lipsticks have been reformulated. I believe the last time they were reformulated was in the 90s, but it has obviously been a while. And so I'm just kind of building this up a little bit. There's been a lot of concern that obviously that a lot of people's favorites aren't going to be the same. And there has been some talk, some speculation that the reformulation is basically it's shrinkflation. It's something that's happening because of the state of the economy right now. And they're looking for a way to incorporate cheaper ingredients and that we're going to have a inferior formula. Normally, I would agree with that stance simply because I've watched so many companies do that sort of thing over the years, particularly in the 2007 recession that we experienced here in the United States. I watched a lot of companies go through that where all of a sudden high quality packaging became low quality packaging. We started getting less product, but the price went up, or they started swapping out higher quality ingredients for lower quality ingredients. But of course, we were still paying more for the privilege of having an inferior product. I watched a lot of companies do that over the last 10, 15 years, 20 years. Wow, 2007. That was 17 years ago. Wow. So, not me feeling old. So I don't think that's outside the realm of possibility, but I don't really think that's what's happening with MAC. The reason being, and I'm going to go into, let's see, I'm just going to go in here to drive with a fluffy brush. The reason why I don't think that that's exactly what's happening here is because MAC used to be a real industry leader, and they still are a solid presence in the industry. They just don't have the market share that they used to. At one point, MAC was the standard for both consumers and for makeup artists, and I don't think that's necessarily the case any longer. I'm not saying that MAC doesn't make some good products, because they really do, and a lot of their products I think deserve more attention than they necessarily get. They're just not the hot thing that they once were. However, one of the staple products that has just continued to be a star in their lineup has been their lipsticks. Their lipsticks are just classic. They are classic lipsticks, and every makeup lover that I know has one or two MAC lipsticks that they have purchased multiple times because that's their lipstick. And I think it's possible that they're going to mess with it, and they're doing it in a way that's not in good faith. From what I've seen of the packaging, I don't think it's a packaging downgrade. If anything, it kind of looks like a packaging upgrade. And for it to be a formula downgrade would be them basically shooting the golden goose. They would be torpedoing the product that I think is keeping them the most relevant now in 2024, in the more modern age of cosmetics, when there's so much more competition for the market share that they once dominated. I'm going to go into styling here and kind of deepen things up a little bit. So while it is possible that MAC is shafting their loyal fan base, who still is very, very interested in their lipsticks and loves their lipsticks, it's always a possibility. I just don't think that that's what they're doing, because it would probably be the one stupidest thing they could possibly do to go for that product. If you wanted to reduce the cost of any products, if you wanted to mess with anything would be better for them to mess with, like in a negative way, than the lipsticks. So I really don't think that that is what is occurring. I have noticed certain moves that MAC has made in the last few years with their MAC Stack mascara, for instance, a few of their other products. I really feel like they're trying to become more relevant again and to make a place for themselves in the current industry. And I think that reducing what we're receiving with those lipsticks, because we're going to know the difference. We're so familiar with those lipsticks. I think reducing the impact of one of their most iconic products in the midst of that effort to become more relevant, I think it's just probably the single dumbest thing they could possibly do. It would go against all of the efforts that I've seen them make over the last few years in the opposite direction, trying to become more relevant, trying to regain some of their market share, trying to refresh their product lineup in a way that makes them more relevant right now. So I don't think it's necessary for anybody to go out and panic buy their favorite lipsticks. Listen, I'm not going to judge you. It's a big risk to take. And if you are on, your 8th tube of Whirl or Bated Breath or whatever, you've got your lipstick. I don't blame you if you go out and you buy a few tubes of it just in case. However, I don't think it's necessary. And I also do want to remind anybody who maybe you don't have a signature lipstick that you want to buy a bunch of tubes of, but you want to experiment more with that range before the shift in the formula, before the formula refresh. I just want to remind you that I have already seen an uptick in the number of MAC lipsticks popping up in discount locations like TJ Maxx, Marshalls. I'm seeing a lot more MAC there than like today. I actually went to TJ Maxx today and I was a little bit surprised. I saw a lot of MAC lipsticks on those shelves. Oh, I should probably wait until I do I need concealer today? Maybe a little bit right in the inside corner, shouldn't be a problem. Now, I don't know, I'm kind of feeling a matte look. What do you think? Maybe mostly matte except for just here in the inside corner. maybe we'll do that. Okay, I kind of want something darker. I want a little bit more drama out there in the outside corner. Not a ton, just a little bit more. So I'm going to go into Dream Street, and I've got this shade here that's Elfish, and I'm actually going to mix it with Water Bearer. And this is going to create, it's going to be muddy, but that's kind of the point. It's going to be kind of a grayish brown. It's going to give me just a little bit more depth in the outer corners. There's a little green in there too, obviously. But it's not really going to pop. It's just going to give me just a little more depth. That's what I'm looking for. This is just me putting on a daytime look, being like, oh, it's just going to be light and fresh, and then I'm like putting black in the corners. Then I'm like, oh, maybe just a little more drama, and then bam, suddenly I have a full-on smoky look. Okay, anyway. The other thing I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about was annoying things that influencers do. This is something I was just thinking about, and I just wanted to talk to somebody about it who has any interest in the topic at all. And that's just about nobody in my life, so I want to talk to you about it. Now, we all have talked at length about the things that influencers do that we feel are out of touch or dishonest. I do feel like there's a certain point at which even influencers that, to me, seem very real, seem very honest, they really make an effort to keep in touch with the needs of the people who they're speaking to, and they don't get carried away by the massive price tag of things and, bouginess of the luxury products that they suddenly have access to that they maybe didn't have when they were first starting their channel. I do feel like there's a certain point that influencers get to where their perspective is necessarily warped by the fact that they have access to so much makeup all the time. My husband and I have often talked about this in other industries, and we call it the food critic effect. A lot of times when you are exposed to a specific, I'm actually going to use this little appointment card here that I don't need anymore. I'm going to do a little bit of shadow liner there. Good, that's nice. Just a little something. Anyway, we call this the food critic effect. And I kind of feel like any industry where you're exposed to a product, a lot more of a product than the average consumer is exposed to, your perception of those products starts to change, and you start to get bored of things that you wouldn't get bored of if you were not exposed to that amount of the product. We'll talk about it from the food critic perspective. Let's say that you love a good burger and fries, just a simple burger and fries. You're just that's a comfort meal, and you eat one, I don't know how often a normal person consumes burger and fries, but let's say once a month. It's a treat. It's a night out treat. It's a date night treat. I don't know. Once a month you have a burger, and you just really enjoy just a basic burger, maybe some cheese, maybe a little bit of bacon if you're feeling fancy, but you just like a burger. And then let's say this is your job, and a few years into your job, you've eaten maybe 3,000 burgers. All of a sudden, that just simple burger with cheese and maybe a little bit bacon is going to bore you to death. And you're going to start looking for other things. You're going to start looking for Chipotle mayonnaise, and you're going to start looking for peanut butter and jelly burgers. Hey, listen, whatever floats your boat. But the sheer exposure that you have to a certain product is going to necessarily change your perspective on that product in a way that you can't undo. And you can't really account for that simply by being more cognizant of it. Because of that, I do think that influencers, beauty influencers, they have a warped perception of the products that they are reviewing. And I think it's impossible to avoid. I also do think that when a hobby becomes a job, it changes your perspective on that hobby in a way that you can't undo, and you can't really accommodate for that again through awareness. For instance, I am a professional artist. For a long time before I was a professional artist, art was something that I did for fun, primarily. When it started to become a job, my perspective on art absolutely changed. Because as much as you love your hobby, once it becomes work, there's a whole host of other things that you have to consider. And then you have to start doing your hobby when you don't want to do your hobby. You have to start doing your hobby when you don't feel inspired. Sometimes you have to exercise, you have to do your hobby in ways that you wouldn't if it was purely up to you and your enjoyment, the way it was when it was just a hobby. So I want to add a little caveat to this particular thing that influencers tend to do that annoys me. I understand when something becomes a job and more than it is a hobby, it can't help but change the way that you relate to that hobby. So once makeup becomes a job, I don't think it's as fun as it is before it was a job. And I'm not saying that it's not fun at all. I'm just going to fill in my eyebrows a little bit here. I'm not saying that these influencers don't have fun with makeup, because I do think I still have fun with art, even though I have been doing it professionally for over 10 years at this point. There are days when it's not fun. There are days when the art that I'm doing is not art that I would be doing if it was up to me. There are days when it's a slog, okay? And I just want to do anything else. Because regardless of how much you enjoy your work and how fun it is and how much it taps into something that you are really passionate about, work is still work. So I don't want to say that I blame anybody from having this perspective. I just want to talk a little bit about how it alienates me a little bit when they tell me that they don't do their makeup except when they film. Listen, it might be true. It might be true, and I'm not going to be mad at anybody for being real with me and for being honest. Or if they tell me that they don't really enjoy wearing makeup. What? The reason I'm watching you is because I have sought out kindred spirits who enjoy this as much as I do, who love this hobby. And so while that may be true, for me, there is nothing more alienating than an influencer telling me that they don't participate in or enjoy the common ground between us. And again, I'm not telling people that they can't be real and they can't be honest about their experience with something. But me personally, I feel extraordinarily put off by anybody who I have sought out in order to enjoy the common ground between us because of our mutual love of a particular thing, for them to tell me, I don't really do this much. I don't really like this much. I only do this when you're watching. Why the heck am I watching you? Why am I listening to you? Why am I listening to your opinions about this particular hobby if you don't seem to actually enjoy it? There is a point. Listen, I kind of think that this is the reason why I really sought out a corner of the makeup. Feeling a little patchy right here. I feel like I sought out a corner of, because I've thought about it for about 10 years of making a channel, because I've always just really enjoyed makeup. But there was something about the hustle of trying to get likes and trying to get subscribers. I wanted a hobby that I wouldn't feel pressure to monetize. And as soon as I found a corner of the beauty YouTube where I felt like, okay, listen, nobody's getting paid here. Panners are not getting millions of subscribers. You know what I'm saying? It's not all about the hustle. This corner of beauty YouTube honestly does feel to me like YouTube circa 2010 or something like that. We're all filming in our bedrooms with non-professional setups. Most of us aren't getting any PR. You know what I'm saying? So that really attracted to me because I wanted this to be a hobby. I've already monetized one of my hobbies, which is art, and I have monetized it very successfully. And I have experienced the shift that occurs when you monetize something that you like, and how that impacts your enjoyment of it, how that impacts how you relate to it. And I don't want that for makeup. I want this to be something that I do for fun. I already have a job. I don't need another job. So I think that's partly what attracted to me to the panning space, was that lack of commercialism, I guess. I understand why influencers go through this change, why they start to become, why their relationship with the product changes because of the sheer volume of exposure that they experience. That is not natural to a way a consumer is going to consume these products. And I think that's an inevitable shift that happens when a influencer reaches a certain level. And it has nothing to do with their integrity. It has nothing to do with their honesty. It has nothing to do with how real they are with their viewers. It has everything to do with the inevitable perceptual shift that occurs just by the sheer amount of exposure to a certain product. And I find that I am less attracted to influencers. These days, I feel like I'm less attracted to influencers that have experienced that kind of shift, that they have such a high turnover that I almost feel like their perception is a little bit skewed. It almost becomes apples and oranges after a certain point. Hi there, editing Rebecca here. I feel like in this video I'm kind of talking circles around 3 distinct concepts, and I'm not articulating any of them super well, which I guess is just what happens when I try to talk and put on makeup and think at the same time. So I probably should have taken some notes first or something, but I wanted to clarify just a few things about what I'm saying. The 3 concepts I'm kind of bouncing back and forth on in this video are: first, I do feel like there is a unavoidable perceptual shift when someone is consuming an unusually large amount of any product, in this case makeup, and it's going to be fundamentally and unavoidably different than the perception of someone who's consuming that product in a more normal consumer capacity. I want to make it clear I don't blame creators for this perceptual shift. I think it's unavoidable. I think it has no reflection on their integrity or their honesty as human beings. I think some of this can be mitigated through awareness, and some of it can't, and that's okay. I just think it's something that we need to be aware of as viewers, that the way that these content creators who are consuming an enormous amount of makeup are looking at these products is going to be a little bit different than the way we would look at these products as consumers. Now, the second point I wanted to make was, when something goes from being primarily a hobby, where the main motivator for you participating in it is the enjoyment of that activity or the enjoyment of that item, and it becomes a job, suddenly you have to factor in a whole host of other considerations that you didn't have to think of otherwise. When it comes to YouTube, beauty YouTube, obviously that's views. Suddenly you're not just thinking about what makeup is fun or useful to you, you're also thinking about what's clickable. I understand how things change when it goes from being your hobby to being your job. I understand that. I have compassion for it. And I brought that up not as a condemnation of content creators, but as a caveat for the next point, which is the thing influencers do that annoys me. The thing that annoys me is when they tell me they don't participate, or enjoy the hobby that I specifically sought them out for. And I want to be clear, this is not about burnout. I have so much compassion for burnout. I've watched influencers who have been like, I'm experiencing some makeup burnout. I don't even want to wear makeup right now. I get that. I've experienced it. And this is also not, well, I haven't experienced it on that level because it's never been my job, but it's also not about people who, for one reason or another, at this point in their lives, a lot of daily makeup use isn't really a reasonable part of their day-to-day life. And I'm thinking about, there are certain creators that have, for instance, Deb B and Ruth Foley have both at times communicated, hey, listen, my life as it is right now, I'm just not wearing a whole lot of makeup. I just can't wear a whole lot of makeup in my life right now. Listen, I get that. That does not put me off at all. Those are 2 of my favorite content creators. I have 5 children. I have birthed 5 babies, okay? That means that I have, on many instances, gone for months and months without touching a single drop or scrap of makeup, okay? I get it. There's some times in your life you just don't have time for that. So I'm not talking about burnout, and I'm not talking about lifestyle demands that prevent you from wearing a lot of makeup on a day-to-day basis. Here's what I'm talking about. Get around to it, Rebecca. I kind of feel like at the beginning of the clean girl era, during the rise of the clean girl era, I started noticing a lot of what seemed to me like humble bragging from a lot of content creators about how, oh, I'm just so low maintenance. Okay, I don't really need I don't need makeup, but just wear a little concealer and a little mascara and I'm fine. Listen, girl, nobody needs makeup. None of us need makeup. This is not a need thing, okay? And I did feel, I do wonder if some of those people were experiencing pushback because of basically their job. I know that our culture kind of looks down on beauty and aesthetics as being superficial and unnecessary. And I'm wondering if they were receiving some pushback for that and feeling ashamed of it. But listen, the last thing I want when I am watching beauty content is any implication that there's anything wrong with wearing red lipstick to the grocery store, okay? Which I have done on many times, many occasions. I remember once, it was maybe 2016, 2017, I was watching one of my favorite content creators, and she did a beautiful face of makeup, and I thought, oh my gosh, I want to try that tomorrow. And she said, yeah, I'm immediately going to wash this off. I'm not going to wear this. And it was like a bucket of cold water in my face. Now, she may have had absolutely, completely legitimate reasons for that. I mean, she probably did. Listen, live your life the way you want to live it. Wear makeup, don't wear makeup. I don't give a crap, okay? But for me, it immediately dampened my enjoyment of that content for her to be like, this is not good enough for me, for whatever reason, okay? And I was like, well, is it good enough for me then? Where is this implication that this is not something that's acceptable in your life, but you're trying to sell it to me? Anyway, I am in no way saying that people can't be honest and transparent with their viewership. I think that's great. And I know that everybody goes through seasons of their life where they may enjoy something more or less than they used to, okay? I just know that for me, personally, okay? I seek out people who are as passionate about this as I am. I enjoy that common ground. And when content creators give me any indication that that is not the case, I'm going to find somewhere else to put my attention, because I kind of feel like in this modern world, I could stand to be a little bit more discerning about where I put my attention, not less discerning where I put my attention. And I really want to put my attention on people who love this as much as I do. And I'm not saying you have to wear makeup every day or wear red lipsticks to the grocery store. If you're as passionate about this as I am, I'm going to enjoy your content. If you seem low-key ashamed of it, or like you are trying to justify or mitigate the perception of your use of makeup or your participation in this hobby, that's just a turn off to me. And that's just how I feel about it. Anyway, I hope I articulated myself a little bit better there. I'm gonna add a little bit of contour, just a smidge. Can't find my contour brush. My kid was in here the other day, and I swear everything's missing. I mean, he's in here every day to some extent, because this is my room, and he is my son. But the other day, he was going to be in here with me for a while, and I didn't want to have to be prying makeup out of his hands every 3 minutes. So I gathered everything up and put it in a box, and now I can't find anything. I'm also going to be using the little Stila. This is the lip and cheek duo that I have in my deck of panning. I had a lot of cheek products to be using this month, and it was a little bit of a struggle. However, I have learned a lot. I've learned a lot my first month panning. I'm going to bust out my Natasha Denona My Dream. This is also in a deck of panning. Do I have any uses left on this? Yes, I have a few. I have a few uses left. So I'm trying to remind myself to wear it. I'm just using the powder highlight here. Trying to remind myself to use it, because I don't normally think, oh, I need highlight. It's just not something I think about. Okay, we're just about done. I'm gonna pick out a lippy. Maybe comb out my hair, maybe not. Let's see. Because I have a pretty neutral eye, I think I'm gonna go for a bolder lip. I am going to use this lip liner. This is a new one that I picked up. This is the Glamlight Rick and Morty collab. It's the lip liner from the lip set. I picked it up at TJ Maxx for like $2. And it's a deep purple, which I thought was really interesting. So I think I'm going to line first, and then I'm going to go in with my Sephora number 96, this red here. We'll see how it looks. We'll see how it looks. That is a lot of drama for a Tuesday afternoon, to admit. And listen, I am not opposed to going to the grocery store with glitter on or red lipstick, but that, I feel like that purple liner just catapulted it into another territory altogether. Sephora's liquid lipsticks are not the most comfortable formula that I've ever experienced, so I may at some point put another, like a bullet, a more matte bullet lipstick, one that's not fully transfer proof, into the middle of this, just to make it a little bit more comfortable for extended wear. Okay, I feel like we need a little powder right here. The one thing, I think one thing that's getting me is this does not go with this sweater at all. At all. We need a different top. Okay, that's the final look. Changed my shirt. Sort of did my hair. This whole half up situation would work a lot better if I'd actually blow dried instead of just letting it dry naturally. But this is where we're at. Put in some earrings. Just in time for me to sit down and do some work. I'm not going anywhere. But I like this. I like how it turned out. I actually really, really like this lip liner. It definitely deepened the red of this lipstick. I actually also ended up, it's quite a bit deeper than it started in the tube, but I like how crisp this liner was. I do like a creamy lip liner, but when trying to do something like this where you just want those edges to be really nice and crisp, it's nice to have kind of a waxier, there's a lot of pigment, but it's definitely a much more solid, waxier formula. And I think that works better for dark colors like this. I actually took my lipstick, my Urban Decay Vice lipstick in the shade Callback, and I put that, it's right here, and I put that in the center just to make it a little bit more comfortable without adding too much of a glossy finish. It's not as matte as it was before, but it's also a lot more comfortable than that matte lipstick is on its own. That particularly nice colors, very affordable, a little drying on the lips. So anyway, I think that is it for me. I'm rocking a shorter lash than I usually do. I've had these on for about 3 days. They're starting to look a little manky. I do feel like the shorter length starts to look a little slept in sooner than the longer length, and I think that's because you can see my natural lashes through it a little bit better. Anyway, thanks for listening to me ramble on about random beauty related things, and I hope I will see you in the next one. Bye.